When I was writing something I realised I wanted to do, probably since about the age of 6. I do have an early memory of leaving the film E.T. and insisting to my mother I wished to rewrite it, which I sort of did with crayon and pictures, and created a completely alternative ending where E.T. didn't leave, and I think sort of fixing the world through stories since, right? I mean, I think that's kind of what it is. Yeah, no, it's full-time work. I used to work in a care home, eventually a call centre, where I worked nights for 10 years, 10 whole years. And it was sort of 3 on 3 off, and on one of those 3 offs I used to write stuff and send it off to BBC Writers' Room and any kind of scheme I could find. I think the first thing that happened, which was via the BBC Writers' Room, which was, I believe they may have had a call for a sitcom submission. I quickly did one, sent it in, didn't end up, but got, oddly, an email and a phone call from somebody there whose name I forget now. Isn't that sad? And who actually said, if you send anything else, could you put my name on the top so it gets to me? And I thought, that's a good sign, isn't it? So, yeah. The worst year of my life, again, was there was an open call for, at the time, unsolicited writers, which I think the BBC Writers' Room used to do quite a lot. So, yeah, it was something I noticed. I'll tell this 15 years later, something I noticed one day before the deadline, and I quickly took my dog for a walk and thought, quick, come up with something quick, and then sent it off, and it got through, amazingly, and I got to go to a BBC residential with Debbie Moon is quite a known writer now, I believe. She created a show called Wolf Blood, and I think she started out on that same residential with me. Both of our shows ended up getting commissioned off the back of it. I mean, it's just unbelievable, really. I just can't imagine that happening now. So, but it did. It's just really easy. There's absolutely no different at all. I just didn't find that remotely a challenge. No, because it's mostly doing comedy for children's anyway, and then it was comedy for adults, and I can't see any difference other than you add swearing sometimes. I mean, honestly, there's a very little difference. I did have another series that was on ITV in the year of COVID, I think, 2020, because called The Trouble with Maggie Cole, which is a kind of a dumb French comedy drama. Quite bad timing, that one was. Nobody was really in the mood for that. And then Ludwig came about because David Mitchell really wanted to play a detective and had basically explained this to somebody at Big Talk, who explained this to me, and that was quite an easy transition again, because it is, again, just a comedy, really, to me. It's a comedy drama, and we have mystery arcs and everything, but yeah, still just comedy. Kind of most of my career has been on something called Mount Pleasant, I think. I think I was there for about 7 years, which was not a show I created. It was just a show I ended up running eventually, and it was that more than anything really taught me comedy drama, I think, because that was more like a soap, that show. But all they wanted was laughs, and you found quite quickly that if you can make somebody laugh 3 times in a row and then make them cry and then make them laugh harder, it's very, very, it really works, and that's what comedy drama is. But I quite how to pinpoint it, and as you probably know, it's really strange in that there's 2 different departments at the BBC, and it's kind of who do you go through, and certainly Ludwig is a comedy show, it's come through the comedy department, but most people would see it as a comedy drama, I think. As easy as I say, anytime somebody's not saying a joke and they look a bit sad, I mean, something's going on there emotionally, right? And certainly there's there is a missing person in Ludwig, there is a child who doesn't have a father, there is a wife who has no idea where her husband is, and there is a man desperately frightened of the world. And although we can make jokes about it, occasionally you just want to see them get whacked with it, and then the audience love them more, then make them laugh harder afterwards, and they'll enjoy it. It's completely apolitical, and I think that might be that my theory at the moment would be that might be something people want, but I have no evidence of it other than Ludwig. I think it's light escapism, and I think people like seeing somebody peculiar beat the odds. I'm being very grand, but maybe it is the state of the world. Maybe it is. I think that probably helps. Me, with my gigantic ego, was decided earlier that I don't think anyone's ever given me advice that I've accepted. And then, really, when you think about it, you realise that's all you had. When I did first, so the first one I would say, when it's to do with structure for me, which was something I hadn't been taught because I'd never been educated in screenwriting or anything, so I'd never done a course or anything like that. And that Australian show that I was talking about, Worst Year of My Life Again, was, in fairness, both the format and structure of that was presented to me by somebody at the BBC. I'd written a script that didn't have it. They came along and said, this is great, can you do it like this? We want this in the first act, this in the last act. And I said, okay, and just did that. And I suppose, thinking about it years later, I've always done that since. So with that guy, kind of, yes, that would be one. And it's you can't really work outside of a format, I don't think, personally. I think you really need to know solidly where you're going in all three acts before you do it. Well, I mean, yeah, it's Desert Island Discs, man. I get so literal with it. I always go, yeah, but I've got to listen to it forever. The TV show I've watched the most is The Prisoner. It's not really funny. I don't know, it's probably not a great example, but I have watched it probably 100 times. I suspect I could watch it 100 more, so we'll go with that for a box set. Let's have Reservoir Dogs then, shall we? I'll tell you what, for a writing question, what I wanted to be was a novelist. That was what I wanted to do, and certainly rewriting things, stories, like I said earlier, it was always that. And I really was rubbish at it. I couldn't do prose to save my life. I didn't know what a screenplay was. And then Empire magazine gave away a free copy of Reservoir Dogs' screenplay. And it probably did change everything, yeah. So let's take that. Yeah. Actually, there's a huge period of time before I started doing it professionally where that's what I read. I kind of scrapped books altogether. It was like, no. I mean, I don't even know the websites now, but there used to be just gigantic archives of just every film you've ever seen, and and that would be advice. I mean, read scripts over and over and over and see how they work, you know.